Hey everybody, it's Taylor with Top Pick Trading. I want to give you guys your Friday bar by bar. It's Friday, August 23rd, 2024. And we are looking at the ES 2000 tick chart as usual, using no indicators but the 21 EMA and the trend lines that we draw. So let's get started on the review. So this bar right here represents 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We would look at our overnight price action, which at this point has just been an uptrend. We would see if we can draw some kind of channel. It appears maybe something like this looks pretty decent. And that's holding well. So right now we'd be looking for a second entry long at the EMA. So right now you can see we've got a first entry. And we get the pullback. And now we've got a second entry forming here. Unfortunately, it's really far out in space, very far from that EMA. 5 points almost from the EMA. So I think you want to wait on something better. Maybe this doesn't trigger and it comes back further and we get a true second entry at the EMA. So, and it does trigger and looks like it would have worked. It's just unfortunate how far away from that EMA we were on a first break. You know, if this was holding at the key entry point, you know, you can be a little more aggressive, but that far from the EMA, just on a first break like that, I think it's a bit risky, especially when this almost looks more like a double top rather than two legs back. I mean, it looks like two legs back, but you could almost consider this a double top and then look for a second correction here. But we don't get it. It gets a new high on that push. And now we'll see what happens at the EMA. Here is the open right here. You can see the shading change. So we know that this is the 9:30 New York Stock Exchange open. And let's see what happens at the EMA. We get a, nope, no trigger on the first entry even. It's like some support resistance here, but it fell right through it. Chopping sideways here. Looks like a wider downtrend possibly, like this here. And this is our first push below the EMA throughout the entire overnight, so we're probably going to retest that high. You do push above the EMA. Kind of moved a bit far for a higher low. Let's see if we can get some new trend established. And it appears we do, but it looks like we've got to break a new high already. And now, by the count here, it's technically a failed second entry short, but it's not really one you're wanting to look to trade because this little local uptrend here already has a break new high. This downtrend never retested. It is bouncing at the support area, which helps, but that's just a very broad correction to be looking for something that's going to trap a short trader in this area. So fortunately, even with the good local price action here with the setup and signal bar, I don't think there's a trade there, especially since that setup bar here was able to close below that EMA, as you can see. And it looks like it would work for a small scalp. And now there's my news indicator isn't working, but I believe the Fed chair was speaking today at 10 a.m. So you'd want to be flat a couple minutes before this. And you can see there it takes off right at 10 o'clock. Pushing way higher. I'd wait for this to calm down a little bit. It looks like we've got another leg up here with a break and new extreme already on it. Maybe there's something wider at play here. Let's see if we can find it. Nothing fitting all that great. Every once in a while I'll start the price action from yesterday if it's a clear trend. And that looks decent there. We'll keep an eye on this one. Either way, this has got a break right here in the new extreme. So kind of unclear here. Still seems rather bullish, but this could be the retest leg. And you can see you got the break new high. So we need to be a little more careful at the EMA now. Since we gapped below here and got an exhaustive move after that news item. Plus, like I mentioned, all your uptrends seem to have played out unless there's something I'm not seeing. Let me just check one more time. Maybe there's some kind of spike in channel. It looks okay. It's just kind of starting in an odd spot. Either way, even that one looks like it may have a little break. We'll keep what we have for now right here and just keep an eye on the more local price action. So this downtrend now has a break and a second leg down here. And we push back above that EMA. I'd just be waiting through this area. It's really hard to know. It's not really holding in any support or resistance area, but it's kind of pushing strongly each way, at least locally. We do have another uptrend here. It looks like it has a little break new extreme. Let's see if I can widen it. Yeah, it looks like it's probably a break new extreme as well. We come back to the EMA and we get this strong lower high bar, but just with how much we've been trending, I wouldn't be interested in that. I'd also be afraid of a second entry here because it seems all of our local uptrends have played out And it doesn't matter, it drops right below the EMA. Lower high would have worked nicely, but hard to know that at the time. Got a local trend working here, pushing strongly to the downside. And now we seem to have bounced at a previous area of movement here where we also bounced earlier. So maybe we're falling over into a range finally. Just chopping sideways now. Pushes off the EMA, but you can clearly see how rangy this looks with big up, big down movement here. We know that's range behavior. It's harder to trust the EMA, especially selling on the lower side or buying on the upper side unless you've got a confirmed trend. Trading breaks on these local trends and ranges is a lot more risky, so no short there in my opinion. You can see it would have stopped you out depending on your scalp size. Now we're pushing to the upside here. Appears this got a break and new extreme. And with this overall upward bias still, I'd be a little more cautious of selling the highs and maybe until we get a third turn. And you can see we get a little bar, inside bar here, so no setup. Looks like it would have worked nicely. We technically got a lower high here that engulfed, but right back in that EMA, so no way. And now we're selling off strongly, it appears. We get like technically a failed second entry long, but failure's mid-range. A little bit risky for me. It's also a little congested. Now we're coming back to that EMA again. It may be something a little wider with no overshoot. Second entry short, bad bar. Just nothing setting up here for us. Downtrend may still be in play. Get a first entry short. Nothing for a second entry. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, we're in a downtrend, but in the lower half of a range that we traded up into, and it's on a first break. So you got to be more wary of shorts until they really show themselves to be the real deal. And now here you can see we pushed through that support level, and we're really selling off strong. So now you know that shorts probably are the real deal. They're showing some significant strength here, pushing below this range, breaking previous pivot points to the long side. And also, if you notice this, I remember watching this in real time. This move, this very strong move with all these big bearish bars closing on or near their low, happened in just a few minutes, 3 minutes here. So something to keep in mind is how quickly these moves happen, independent of the rest, the speed for the rest of the day. You can know that you're catching some longs off guard due to the speed of this, in my opinion. So you're more likely to, take a quick trade based on the strength and speed in which this occurred. So keep that in mind. And when I say quick trade, I just mean a correction that snaps back rather quickly. And now we get a second entry short. It's unfortunate. Once again, it's kind of like this trade earlier in the morning to the long side. It's far away from the EMA. This one's not quite as far. It's a good bar. You are turning off that opening price there, which we know that that's an important level. It's this yellow dash line. And just with the strength and speed at which this occurred, I'm more inclined to say that this is an aggressive trade. It is still 4 points from the EMA, so that's something to keep in mind is strong. We're also bouncing at the measured move of this range here, but it appears you've got two clear legs back with a break new high. So personally, I waited on this. Just a bit too far from the EMA for me, but if you want to take a little bit of a risk there, if you recognize this strength and the speed at which this occurred, shorts are probably still in control here. You can see also this opening price levels we've turned here several times way earlier in the day. So I understand taking a chance there. And it would have worked nicely. Personally, I'd wait. Maybe you get one more push back to that EMA. Fortunately, we don't there. Bounced rather strongly, but the EMA holds it. And now we push through the EMA. Clearly uptrend working now. Strong move. And this is actually a failed second entry short. But this move, it actually ticked below here. So this looks more still like a visual failed second entry short, but it moved a bit far for me to want to consider that. So now we are pushing back into this range, it appears. And you can see it bounced right after that retest. We bounced right at that measured move. And so you would expect probably we're going to push back up into this range. So we can consider a long here. This is a pretty strong move all your downtrends have played out. The first entry doesn't trigger until here, and now you get a terrible bar for a second entry. So unfortunate, no trade there. Just chops higher. Strong bearish bar here, but 27 ticks, so no setup there. It is turning off those range lows after a break new high, but a lot of congestion here. EMA just held for a couple swings, so it's hard to sell right into that. Does push lower, bounces here on a second entry at this same critical area that the short occurred at earlier. Still just a little unknown. I would have liked this to test one more time to the long side before I consider this second entry long here. You can see it does work nicely. If your local uptrend still needed a retest, then maybe you can consider this, but you can see everything's played out, so it's a lot tougher call. Pushing higher here in this local uptrend. Get a break, extreme, expand this range a little bit further. So hard to know long or short here. It's chopping sideways, but all your trends have played out, so I would just wait through this area. We're not quite back at the resistance, but our uptrends have played out. It's chopping sideways, nothing here. We do get another push to a new extreme, and you can see this how strongly it sells off here. Massive 28 tick bar, nothing there. So now we're pushing back down to the support area. Let's see what happens, and we get a strong bearish push here. Come back, let's see if we can get a second entry short that turns at the EMA. This move, you can see, blew through that support, so it doesn't feel, it's still rangy behavior, but it doesn't feel like the support's holding necessarily. So I think in this instance, we can consider a second entry short. Does push down here very strongly on the first entry. And we actually get a new low, so it's unfortunate nothing happens there. Now we get just another first entry here. Your downtrend's played out, potentially, so hard to just trust the EMA alone there now. And it does work nicely. So we've got two legs to a new extreme. Maybe something wider. Not all that great looking. It's not touching this swing here, but this strength here makes me think something's larger at play. Come back, we get a first entry. Let's see if it turns. Maybe it holds at this area, and we can confirm this is a wider downtrend. Notice where we bounced again. At this point, this is the third bounce here. Even if it's temporary, I'd consider this a two-tiered range here, with their measured move just being our new support and the initial support being the midline. So we get a first entry short here, and this is still part of the first entry, so fortunately no setup there. And the second entry is way down here, so nothing there. You can see this trend line does appear to be holding. A little wide for range behavior, but it does appear to be holding. Also appears like there's some more local range here now. It looks pretty nice. Pushes higher out of the lower side of this range. Looks like we've got a little micro uptrend. Looks like it's got a break new high. And unfortunately no bar here to sell at this resistance, and it pushes lower. This looks like potentially the retest leg from this larger downtrend earlier. And it gets a break new extreme, it appears. We maybe could widen it just a little bit. Actually still fits if you do it this way. Could be an overshoot, maybe not. Probably the retest leg, so may not matter as much. We get this higher low, but right into that EMA. A little bit of a wick on top as well, 20 ticks. This is, like I mentioned, maybe still in play as well. So let's see if we retest that or return to this range. It looks like we're returning to the range. This wider uptrend appears to still be in play here. This move here is very strong. You can see that we completely negated this retest leg of the downtrend. Didn't quite get to those overnight lows, but correcting rather strongly. Let's see here. We blew through these, not really blew through, but we did push through these little range highs here. So let's see if we can get a second entry long. We do get a second entry here, but way up here, too far from the EMA. And now we get what looks kind of like a visual second entry. So you've got a leg down, two-legged correction, leg down. So you can see this as a wider second entry long. It's still pretty far from that EMA, unfortunately, but the setup, signal bar are really nice. And this move here is really strong. So, you got a pretty good chance on an overall, what looks to be like a rangy day now. You've got a pretty good chance of this thing getting a second leg. So, pretty big upside for a runner here. It is risky since we're just barely touching that EMA. At least it touches it with the wick. And you can see this resistance didn't really push prices off it very hard. It really just created congestion. So I think if you want to take this on a limit entry, I think it's aggressive, but I think it's okay. Maybe put your limit halfway back and, see if you get filled. And actually in this case, I don't remember how far this ticked back, but I know it came back some. I don't know if the lower part of this wick occurred before the break above. Probably not, since it closed on its high. So you probably could have really gotten a nice limit here. Still risky, like I said. I mean, you are really close to those highs, a bit far from the EMA, but this move here is really strong, so that's something to keep in mind. Strong moves often get second legs, so in the right context. So it works nicely for a scalp, and a lot more now if your runner somehow survived. And you can see we're headed for that second leg. Maybe there's something wider here. That looks decent, not perfect. I don't like the gaps through here, but it fits okay. Maybe a spike in channel even, and that actually fits a little bit better. So I would go with this for now. And just to mention this higher low here, I think you wouldn't have had the spike in channel. You wouldn't trust it quite as much yet, so I wouldn't want to take that. So anyway, so we push higher here. We get a first entry long bouncing at this little area here. You see, pushed into that maybe twice here, and now once more here. And this spike in channel seems to be holding. Sells off pretty strongly, but just a little sideways. And now it bounces again right at the same little support area and at that EMA after such a strong move. You can see we're not quite at the measured move yet, so it's probably got a little more room to run. It is pretty sideways, but if you understand the context here, that we're bouncing basically at a key entry point. If I wind this just a bit, it actually fits perfect off of that swing. It could even be this. Either one of these fits. Maybe there's a little overshoot, but it's not acting like it. Overshoots usually shoot right through that EMA if it's one that's going to act as a true overshoot. So with this good bar here, you can see it tick those shorts in just by one tick there and reverse very strongly. So also could kind of see it as a triple test, like I said, bouncing at the EMA key entry point. So I think this is still aggressive due to that congestion and the size of the bar, 16 ticks. But once again, you want to drop a limit on this one. It's probably going to retest this high, and it's probably going to get to this measured move here. And you can see it does back up a good bit. I actually did take this trade myself, understanding the risk of the congestion there. But I put my limit a pretty good bit back here and was able to get a nice little scalp. You get like a failure here, but you're way too high. And you can see it pushes strongly to the downside. It looks like maybe a break now from this spike in channel. Still not at the measured move yet. EMA still holding though. Chopping sideways. Nothing here. Sells off strongly. Let's see if we can maybe get a bounce at this little support area. It does appear like our uptrends, our spike in channels played out potentially, but if this support wants to hold, it could be folding over into a little more local range. You can see we bounced here with the wick, so you've got several clear touches in here. And we fall now to it, and we bounce right at it, just as we expected, but unfortunately no good bar. Now we get to that measured move, push strongly to the upside again. Just chopping higher, get a break from this local uptrend, new high, and that's 330. So unfortunately, no long here. That would have been a good spot for one. I like the context for it there. Trading up into a more local range and clearly bouncing at it several times. And you could just see that shorts never really could gain, go to my mouse here, shorts never really could gain too much strength. You don't see too many consecutive bearish bars closing on or near their low. You got this little one here that had no follow through. This one a little bit, but same thing, not really any follow through. Bounces right where we expect, but no bar. So yeah, overall, very rangy day where it would kind of feel like one side was taking control and then it would just, quickly reverse. But, at least some of these reversals were in expected locations. He had the really strong move down here that bounced right at the measure move of the initial range, ended up being the range lows. It reversed pretty strongly. We did come up a little short on this side before it just finally plummeted and reversed. This one was kind of a random spot too, but once you saw that strength come in there, you probably knew that this range was taking precedence again. So that led us to these two long potentials here. So, and then this reversal up here, hard to time this, but kind of expected because it appeared this uptrend already had a break and several legs up. So, yeah, just to go over the actual trades one more time. You had the aggressive second entry short that's far from the MA, but would have been after you noticed the strength and the speed of this move here. Look at that, the whole thing in 4 minutes. So a little two-legged correction back to the, not really the MA, but resistance area and the opening price as well. And then you had the visual second entry long here after this strong impulsive bullish move up back into the range. Probably a limit candidate there. And then same for this one, second entry long, triple test at the spike and channel key entry point, and this little local support and the EMA as well. Also a good limit candidate. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Kind of a weird day, but still some decent setups. More aggressive, but still some opportunities there. So hope you guys enjoyed that. If you're interested in trading like we do, check out our website, toppicktrading.com, and comment if you're interested, have any questions, anything like that. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see y'all next week. Bye.